Then we have a few questions here from someone by the name of Zusimos. He says, Salam, I have been going through a lot lately, both religiously and personally. When I started watching your sermons, I saw peace in your eyes, and your words for both Muslims and Christians were very lucid and well thought out. Over the past months, I have been having dreams of His Holiness al-Sadiq. I have a few questions. First, are you infallible like the Imams before you?
Yes, I am infallible like every single Hujjah. And there's nobody that's sent and made obligatory to obey except that they are infallible. So in order that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala expected that people follow a messenger, a king, a judge, an imam, a Mahdi, that person has to have infallibility to some degree. And the basic form of infallibility is that this individual can never take you out of the truth and lead you into falsehood.
And then the second question they have is, if you are you afflicted by any temptations and urges?
What does he mean by temptations and urges? I mean, what does that mean? I mean, does it mean to feel hunger? I mean, the devil tempted Jesus Christ himself, right?
Yes.
Through hunger. When he was feeling hungry, he tempted him to turn a rock into bread, right? So, of course, every prophet and messenger and imam feels certain human urges, such as hunger, thirst, other types of needs, for example, but does it mean that they fall into temptation? That's something else.
Can you explain the morality behind the Old Testament conquests of Canaan, which were more like cleansings rather than wars? For example, the slain children of the pagans, are they in hell or do they reside in paradise? How about their Semitic killers?
So basically, everything that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded His messenger, this is a war that's sanctioned. It's a holy war. No wrongdoing can take place in it. Okay? And we spoke about previously in many episodes how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's wisdom is above and beyond the apparent or what the normal people may see, right? Yes. So people can see something and perceive it to be immoral or to perceive it to be unjust or bad or evil, but in reality it is good. And we have a reminder of this in the story of the righteous servant with Moses, and especially the event where Moses and the righteous servant, they come across this youth, this child, and the righteous servant slaughters the youth or kills him in front of Moses. Moses freaks out. He says, this is a great sin. You're murdering this individual without just cause. But the righteous servant had an answer for that at the end of the story. And the answer is that one, he was commanded to do so. He didn't do it from his own self. Two, this individual, God knew that he would grow up to be a tyrant that would actually cause a lot of suffering for his parents. So it was an act of mercy from God towards the parents of this individual that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded his death. So he was essentially like a baby Hitler, and it was moral and justified in God's book to eliminate this individual. The same thing applies to these stories or the conquest that was led by Joshua. Yusha, or Joshua, the son of Nun, in Islam, he's a prophet, right? And in Judaism and Christianity, he's a judge. He's divinely anointed. He's appointed. He is the successor of Moses, alayhi salam. And so his actions were not from his own self. His actions were from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so whether we look at it and we think to ourselves that God knew that there was no goodness in all of those children and women and everybody else that were eliminated at the hands of Joshua and his army, then we should accept that, because obviously God would know that the souls that were inhabiting those bodies were the souls of demons that hated God or that were enemies of God and his messenger. And so it wouldn't be a genocide, so to speak, right? It would be a justified holy war of angels versus demons, or good versus evil. We also have this concept of reincarnation in our religion and the karmic play out of events. And so we believe that all of those individuals that died in events like this, they themselves were guilty of killing men, women, and children in their lifetime. And so they reincarnated as those individuals. And so Joshua was simply basically punishing them for sins that had already came from them before, right?
Yes.
And so that's our explanation for that. It's totally justifiable. But it's not justifiable that something like this take place in modern times at the hands of somebody who's claiming to be a follower of these prophets, but he is a fallible individual who's not appointed by God, because you can't do something like this and be justified in your actions unless you are led by God or appointed by God and told to do so.